I've had a surprisingly busy morning already. I was down here at, I woke up at 5 a.m. I'm down heading back to the courthouse for the Trump trial, of course. And I was down here earlier today. It's funny, I don't know, maybe I've been here a half a dozen times or more. I haven't tried to enter the hearing, the courtroom, the trial each time, but I have certainly tried 3 or 4 or 5 times. I would say 4 or 5 times. And each time I've been met with another curious challenge. The last time I came here, they told me, I got to the 15th floor dressed in a suit. Everybody thought I was a lawyer. And the security guards at the magnetometer on the 15th floor where the courtroom is said, "Where is your ticket?" And explained to me that in the morning everybody is given tickets and that's the only time you can get them and you got to get there early. Okay. So then I was monitoring, Andrew Giuliani is on Twitter and Norm Eisen, and they seem to be showing up around 7 in the morning. There were some people, somebody had posted something on a rainy day at 4:30 in the morning. And I said, look, I'm not going to go there at 4:30 in the morning, but if Andrew Giuliani gets in at 7, Norm gets in at 7:30. I must have got there a little before 7:30 in the morning. There wasn't that big a line. And we'll see if the 2 guys who I spoke to are still there. But they just wouldn't let me in. They said to me that people had been waiting there since Saturday. And I said, since Saturday, this is a park. You're letting people sleep out in the park? Isn't that vagrancy? And they said, we weren't here Saturday. So, when you go to like some obnoxious nightclub or bar and the jackass who is the bouncer behaves like that, like a smartass with a stupid answer for everything, shining you off, I don't think that's too nice, but what can you really do? The problem is these people are police officers. Their cars talk about courtesy, professionalism, and respect. Ostensibly, they're here to enforce the law, not to just antagonize citizens and act like assholes. I don't know why we need to pay people to do that. We got a lot of people around willing to do that for free. No need to run up all these bills for the city. But anyway, it was quite clear that I wasn't going to get in. And, they gave me a whole song and dance that the public, it was already too full. So then they let somebody in. I said, why'd you let that person in? They said, they're press. I said, I was here last week. I'm press. And they said, where's your press pass? Even though the person who went in didn't show a press pass. And it was just, nonsense after nonsense. But the police have a lot of stupid answers for everything and not a lot of, action in terms of actually making anything happen. So the reason I chose to come back, because it was quite clear I wasn't going to get in there, the reason I chose to come back was because it's occurred to me that just observing what's going on outside the court, I'm learning quite a lot. People could see from the thumbnail, I had a little discussion with some of New York's New York's finest. That's nonsense. That's like telling Lizzo she's beautiful. You can say it, but it's not true. What? NYPD does not represent New York's finest. The current state of NYPD is absolutely disgraceful. They are a totally dysfunctional, feckless, I would say even criminal organization. They're enabling crime. They're not fighting crime. They're not enforcing the law. It's very upsetting. I'm really not sure what can be done about it. From my point of view, I'm suing them. Hopefully that'll do something. Oh yeah, I found out that first of all, this guy's parked in the crosswalk charging. You're not supposed to do that. And second of all, this is supposed to be for New York City-owned vehicles only. So I guess that says TLC. That seems like it's an Uber car. This is the second time we've seen this Jeep parked here from New Jersey, so it's probably some, city employee who has that set up so they can charge their car there, getting free electricity from the city. I wonder what's behind all that. Why does that person get free electricity? But this is what the cops are into, doing things for themselves and people that they know, letting people into this trial quite clearly who they want in, and keeping out people who they don't want, people who they want kept out. See, the bigger issue is, I thought that might have been Costello for a second. We're going to talk about him, Michael Cohen's former attorney. But the reason why I wanted to come back is that the lunch break is going to be happening at any moment. And also, I wanted to show people what is going on in Collect Pond Park, because after this little interaction this morning with a bunch of idiots, well, two groups of idiots. First, a bunch of idiots not dressed as police, then a bunch of idiots dressed as police. But I have reason to believe that every single one of these idiots work for the NYPD. And what am I talking about? Well, people are going to remember, and I spoke to Laura about this. She didn't know anything about it, so it's possible that she's being manipulated as well. But remember, the first day of this trial, or at least the first day that I came to, I think it was the first day, Laura was in town from Florida. She had a rally. She had spent a lot of time setting it up. So from that standpoint, it made sense that she wanted to make sure I was there. It was the biggest event she was doing while she was here. And I don't think she knew that the park was going to be loaded up with FBI UCOs. Keep in mind that the FBI and the NYPD have a very close relationship. It almost might be impossible to know, is this dog sniffing a box that might be, what is that box doing there? I guess they know, it's not a bomb. But, what was I getting at there? There was a lot of, it's hard to know where the NYPD ends and the FBI begins. This JTTF, that's how the FBI wants it. They view these local law enforcement agencies not as independent things that were conceived to distribute power, so it's not consolidated in federal agencies. This was a decentralized approach to government that the constitutional, the framers of the Constitution, they understood that if you had one centralized thing in Washington, D.C., that fucking shitheads like Valerie Caproni and Andrew Weissman and Christopher Wray and James Comey and all the other idiots who are FBI executives who think they know something. See, these cops can't control a damn thing. That's the FBI building right there, and we've got people just brazenly breaking the law right in front of the building. And if they would let people know that riding bicycles and skateboards and stuff like that is not acceptable, it would send a signal that lots of other stuff is not acceptable too. Rudy Giuliani and Bernard Kerik did a great job with their broken windows policing policies that really straightened out the city. So I was in this park earlier today just having a conversation with a nice guy who was standing there, quite curious about the trial. And it was pretty empty. As a matter of fact, well, it was early, so it was empty. But then just sort of out of nowhere, this group who I've seen before, they are walking around with these manufactured signs that say nobody is above the law. And I think they were the same people. I might have recognized one of them from inside the federal building there when they had the remote hearing. Remember, there was a protest and all those people were embedded behind me and started screaming and yelling the second they wouldn't let us in, and then they conveniently got a picture of me, yelling at the cops to let us in. And George's brother likes to send that all around. He likes to collect unflattering pictures of me and then send them places. Now, wait a minute, what the hell is going on here? What have they set up there? So see, we had a whole gaggle of disruptive people. And so the reason that I wanted to talk about Laura's event, how you doing? The reason I wanted to talk about Laura's event is because what they established on the first day of that event, people might remember we were over there, closer to the courthouse, and some crazy woman who people later found out who she was. I don't even remember. I was right. She was an immigrant. And I think there was some question about her immigration status. Now look at this. Joe Biden and 51 something. So I guess the pro-Trump people have put this here to block the anti-Trump people who are creating a problem. But see, the issue is, the reason, as I understood it, for separating people onto that side who wanted to protest Trump and placing people on this side who were supporting Trump was to avoid conflicts and fights. So what's interesting is, I was just standing here and I happened to observe, you see, this area over here, people will recall this is where your CNNs, your Fox News, Norm Eisen, you know, all of the people who are lying about this trial, who are rushing out breathlessly to explain to you what an incredible job Michael Cohen is doing and what Stormy Hooker is doing, until just the other day when it became basically impossible to defend these idiots any longer. That's an incredibly protected space right there. People, did I do a video trying to get in there? I might have been trying to get in there and didn't start the video during that process, but the cops over there are just not letting people through. And people might have noticed the other day, Scott Libido, who is an artist of some kind from Staten Island, and I first encountered right around the time that Mac's Pub business was going on. But Scott Libido, for some reason, he was able to drive a truck through there, release a bunch of Mylar balloons. Now, I don't think we should terminate people's ability to buy internal combustion engines or make it so that you can't cook food, but I'm also not into deliberate and unnecessary littering of completely not biodegradable for like millions of years ever Mylar balloons and just releasing them to get a viral moment or make a point. But the bigger issue, aside from the fact that it should not have been allowed to be done at all, is that the police let him right in there to do it. And they're standing there while he's opening the truck and releasing the balloons, and they're not saying anything. And I think it's quite obvious that if you do something that the police don't like, they'll stop it immediately. I don't recommend testing that, but it's weird. Because you see, Scott Libido is part of this crew also of fucking assholes who seem to work for the cops. And see, it's fine to work for the cops. Put on a uniform, go enforce the law. I get it, it's dangerous work. There's often even people who need to go undercover. But I think most people think you're going undercover to stop, you know, heroin rings and fentanyl rings and murder for hire stuff and serious organized crime, not to bust the balls of people who are trying to do shows on YouTube and Subscribestar and Patreon. That seems absurd to do. So they're liars. Now, so these are the guys who wouldn't let me in before, and they were just so unprofessional in their demeanor. I wanted to document it. There's a different guy who was here before.
I'm sure he does. But right now, all I have is the phone.
But these law enforcement officers, not these two specific guys, the guys who were here before were just so discourteous, so unprofessional, so disgraceful. It really is horrible. So people have been waiting here since Saturday?
I guess so. I don't know, I haven't been here this weekend.
And they allow people to just sleep in the park? Isn't that vagrancy?
I don't know, that's not the park. That's the park.
Well, this is still a
That's not the
sidewalk.
park,
It's the
no.
court building. Are vagrants allowed to sleep there through the weekend?
Don't homeless sleep in the street all day?
I'm just saying, you're a cop, aren't you? You're some sort of
Yeah,
court
I'm a police
enforcement
officer.
officer?
Peace officer, yes.
So if there's vagrants sleeping outside the court, that seems like something you would address, right?
It's above my pay grade, but
Yeah, your
That's
fellow
the way- that's
officers
the way
are
they do it,
just
but-
very rude,
like-
totally unprofessional. This guy, he's one of them. He's been unprofessional many, many times. You were the one joking about letting people sleep here on Saturday. So vagrants are waiting here in the park until Saturday?
Yeah, people stay here all weekend.
And you don't do anything about that?
I don't do
the police. See, this sort of snarky, smiling attitude, is this the type of courtesy, professionalism, and respect that law enforcement is to show the public? To mock me?
Into your conversation.
So, but you're coming over and joining it, so I thought I was...
Yeah. Okay, so you asked me a question.
I'm saying these officers are totally unprofessional, totally rude.
That's not true at all.
Well, you just asked me a question, and I'm sharing my experience with you,
I didn't ask you
Rafford.
anything.
You said you came over, you don't know the parameters of the conversation or
The
something.
question you were asking me.
I don't think
didn't
I was
ask
asking you anything. I was talking to this guy, then you came over, you said you don't know what I'm asking. I started to talk to you. You started to interrupt me so that there's no way for me to tell you, making faces like this. This is the way the police act all the time. So I just want to let you guys know, every time you shine off a member of the public and act rude and condescending like this, you're hurting people's respect for law enforcement, and you're making everybody who works in law enforcement less safe. Because people don't trust you guys because you just act like jerks all the time. There's no way people were staying here until Saturday. It's a bunch of excuses being made. Ben Wittes, my man, how you doing? You're here for the lawfare, aren't you? Hey, listen, motherfucker, you are a liar. You set this whole thing up. You, Andrew Weissman, and what's his name, Norm Eisen, you guys got Michael Cohen to set this whole thing up with Stormy Daniels. He paid her with his own money. Costello just testified to that. You're such a fucking liar, it's insane. What's with all this money that gets sent to your house for the nonprofit? That's criminal. You should go to jail for that. And your nonprofit, the Lawfare Institute, has paid over $300,000 to Vindman since he lied on the stand. All of you fucking guys are gonna go to jail. Do you know that? Why did you come over here? See, it's interesting how the police come right over to Mr. Wittes. Isn't that so interesting? They run right over. They know exactly who that fucking scumbag is. This is why I'm not being allowed in. Every single officer here knows who I am. They know what I know. They know that Ben Wittes is a scumbag and a political operative who will never answer those questions. What a fat turd that guy is. What a fat little douche.
I saw the, guys, imagine if someone's videoing, they see us.
Everybody's got to eat lunch. These cops are so unprofessional. But see, there's just always stupid faces, shrugging of the shoulders. Pathetic. So they're here to protect people like Ben Wittes. Really amazing. And the police run in right after him. It's so strange that two police lieutenants needed to get lunch in that exact deli. So there is value in me being here and auditing what the police are doing. So here's the thing. These people, they were there in the park. I got it all on video, but I'm reluctant to play it here because I think I'd rather play it after this on a sponsor exclusive video for people who are sponsoring the show on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. That's so interesting that the police ran in there right after Ben Wittes. Why are the police protecting Ben Wittes? Weird. So I'm in the park over there, and these people come in, and I basically tell them, hey, you know, you guys, they're protesting Trump, right? It was these folks. Something resist. We'll see it when we watch the whole video. But they have this "no one is above the law" sign there. See, I've seen these people here with that "no one is above the law" sign prior to today. And so what's interesting is, I was kind of waiting there, hoping I could speak to Jonathan Turley, perhaps, And this group showed up. And first, they marched through that incredibly secure news person area, which you cannot easily get through. And yet they were able to march right through, and the police did not stop them. They had their signs, you know, that's there so it can get on the news, so that the message that goes out is, oh, look, people are protesting. And that's how that works. The cops let them in there, same way they let Scott Lobito in. Weird. Why? Why would they do that? Why would they let these protesters into an area that, you know, if I'm in a suit and I say I'm here to speak to Professor Turley, they say you can't come in unless you have a press pass. So I politely walk away. What did all this crew of 20 people with protest signs, what did they say? We're here to protest? Okay, sure, go in. Why did the cops let them in? Weird. But anyway, then those people parked themselves in the pro-Trump side of the park that the police have. Maybe this is the one sensible thing that they've done, separate the two sides to try to avoid a fight before it starts. But instead of that, they let these people come into the park and do whatever they were doing. Now, is that a detective? Is that a police detective right there eyeballing me? Maybe not. He looks pretty focused on his phone. Could be. But those people, so here's the police. Is Ben Wittes with them? Maybe it's not that strange that two police lieutenants rushed right in there. So anyway, this group of protesters who are supposed to be on the side of the park that's closest to the courthouse are doing their protest right there on the pro-Trump side. So I just went up to them and said, you guys are not supposed to be on this side. And are you aware that Michael Cohen has testified that Trump knew nothing about this payment? That Cohen paid the payment. Cohen's former attorney testified that he knew nothing, that Trump knew nothing about it, that Cohen paid it, that Cohen got this home equity line of credit to pay the $130,000. It seems like a low amount to settle with Trump for. Seems like the kind of amount Michael Cohen could get a loan for without telling his wife about. So Cohen gets this money, and people say, why? See, I think when you listen to the different, the testimony, and now there's a few interviews. Costello has spoken to Bill Hemmer and Mark Levin. He said essentially mostly the same stuff, but it's useful to listen to it a few times. It's so funny. Ben Wittes is like stuck in that cafe, not wanting to come out. You could sleep in there overnight. But he came back to this detail that, he told Michael Cohen, there must be something else that you did. Cohen was hung up on, why are they trying to arrest me for a non-disclosure agreement? And Costello, who was acting his attorney or had represented him or was hired by him right then and was giving him the first initial consultation, he said, Michael, you must have done something, because how did they get a search warrant for your premises if you didn't do something? And he never actually answers that. He might have just been asking that, but he also describes how Cohen is like manic, So he's banging on the table, and he repeats several times that he's willing to do anything to stay out of jail. And he's banging on the table. And I mean, obviously I wasn't there, But just from listening to Costello talk about it, it's quite clear that this behavior is really seared into his mind. He said in multiple interviews that 10 or 20 times Cohen was banging on the table and saying that he'll do anything to stay out of jail. And then we know that after this, Cohen waives the attorney-client privilege with Costello. Seems unusual to me. I have no frame of reference to know how often that's done. I'm not an attorney, but I think it's rare. And I'd like to find out if several of Costello's clients have done that, or this is the only guy to ever do it. I don't know, but it's unusual, and that's the only reason why Costello can testify about this now, because Cohen waived attorney-client privilege, and the reason he did it was so that he could lie to the FBI and say, hey, this guy, Costello, through Rudy Giuliani, was trying to bribe me with a pardon. And Cohen is lying and saying that Costello said, if you cover up all this Stormy Daniels stuff for President Trump, he'll give you a pardon. And they're trying to position it such that, you know, these lawyers knew it was illegal to do, so there's no agreement, but this is what they said. And so the FBI calls Costello, and he's interviewed by FBI and U.S. attorneys. This is all Andrew Weissman's people. And unfortunately, Costello is too smart, too honest, and had evidence that proved that Cohen was lying. They weren't able to get him. And the thing is, why did they want Costello? Well, the answer is because they knew he was friends with Giuliani. And remember, this was happening in 2018, so they're still trying to create lawfare attack vectors. You know, maybe Costello wasn't their best bet, but if Costello, you know, the fact that he knows Giuliani, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to fill in some blanks here based on things that Costello has told us, things that we know, and things that we don't yet know. But Costello says he went in and spoke to the FBI, and he had them laughing, according to him, in 15 minutes. They couldn't nail him on any of this stuff. And he's come forward and started speaking about this last week because he hears Michael Cohen lying in court, and he's saying, hey, this isn't right. And he seems pro-Trump. He refers to Joe Biden as people voting for the other guy. He's going on Fox News. Not necessarily the type of stuff a Biden voter would do. And also, you know, he's friends with Rudy Giuliani. He's representing Michael Cohen. This is obviously a Trump guy. So, yeah, so what we need to understand is, did Cohen actually show Costello a search warrant? Because he said it a few times in the interviews. Like, obviously, this was another important thing in Costello's mind, that the FBI can't just search your place. You must have done something that would allow them to get a search warrant. And I know that's not correct. The FBI could have used an NSL. They could have said, hey, this guy's part of, you know, he's talking to Felix Sater. There you go. They could have just said, look at this. He's emailing Felix Sater about Trump Tower, something that we've seen those emails. Sater admitted last week that he spoke to Michael Cohen about Trump Tower Moscow. So they could have just said, look, this guy's emailing with Felix Sater. He's a Russian mobster, and they're talking about Trump Tower. This is Putin stuff. This is a national security issue. And here's a national security letter. We need to search his place. They could have done that. That's one possibility. The other thing that they could have done is they could have said, hey, Michael Cohen, we know you sort of really super well because you have been arrested for a lot of stuff. Tax evasion, and then there was something going on with that Evgeny Friedman, the taxi king. Remember that guy? I think he died somehow, but that guy was somehow involved with Michael Cohen with taxi medallions. And so there would have been a lot of interaction between law enforcement and Michael Cohen, and You know, maybe they said, hey, why don't you sign a secret agreement similar to the one your buddy Felix Sater signed, and then you'll work for us. And our plan is we want to jam up Trump. And the way we're going to do that, because remember, this is the Caproni method, and they've told us about that. A bunch of idiots who used to work for and with her have written books about exactly what they did in bringing down the Russian mob in Brooklyn. And they would sort of select criminals who they could work with and allow those guys to carry on doing crimes while they, you know, some of those crimes would be killing the rival mafia gangs, and then when everybody got done killing each other, then the police showed up and said, oh, we defeated the mafia. Awful lot of white shirts over there. Could that be because I was speaking to Ben Wittes? Why does one particular blog publisher have so much police attention around him just because I want to talk to him about the fact that he is one of the individuals who are personally responsible for all of this nonsense? Sending that email to James Comey. You know, these are people who tried to destroy the lives of my friends, my associates, myself. Look, the cops are looking right at me. What is that fat lieutenant looking at? See, they know I'm not doing anything I'm not allowed to do. I'm just standing on a sidewalk at a newsworthy event. Totally allowed to do that. So the FBI or Andrew Weissman or somebody like that, Ben Wittes, some jackass, would have said, hey, Michael, why don't you, instead of going to jail, cooperate with us, and here's what we'd like you to do. We're going to put together a stupid story about Stormy Daniels wanting to sue Trump. And since you're his lawyer, you can present this as, hey, this is a pretty run-of-the-mill, vexatious lawsuit from an opportunistic hooker who knows you're a billionaire and met you, and on the basis of having a photograph with you or being at a golf dinner with you or whatever, is going to bring a lawsuit alleging an affair. And Costello has testified that Cohen told him that he did not believe this allegation when the attorney for Stormy Daniels called him. He didn't believe it. But yet, according to what Cohen told Costello, he wanted to handle this thing because it would be embarrassing for Melania. Now, he hasn't said this, but I surmise that it is Mr. Costello's speculation as to Cohen's motive for doing this. I don't know that he said that Cohen told me this. He has given a motive, and he believes that that is because Cohen wanted to be Attorney General. He even says that's ridiculous. I think Cohen would have to know. He's not an experienced or qualified or respectable enough attorney to be Attorney General. He would never get past the Senate confirmation. But whatever it is, that's what he tells Costello. And I think his actual motivation for going forward with this whole story is that the lawyer who contacted Cohen on behalf of Stormy Daniels, I don't think actually worked for Stormy Daniels. I think that lawyer also worked for the FBI. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, well, maybe Stormy Daniels was having sex with Cohen, maybe this, maybe that. I mean, anything is maybe, but why do we want to search for things that we don't have evidence of? I'm just trying to stick to the evidence. I have seen evidence that Stormy Daniels is involved in NXIVM. Somewhere I saw a photograph, it would be worthwhile corroborating this, but I saw a photograph of a burn scar kind of tattoo of that NXIVM logo on Stormy Daniels. I don't have that at my fingertips. It could have been fake. Somebody could fake that. Somebody could do that. But it's not outside the realm of possibility that a porn star would be a part of a Hollywood sex ring. That seems pretty conceivable. Michael Avenatti was alleged to be part of that. A lot of people refer to a video that a guy put on the internet where he's making allegations that he went to some kind of Yale party or something, and it was a NXIVM recruiting thing, and he called people. I mean, the thing about that is a lot of people hear something like that and they treat it like extremely, extremely valuable evidence. And the problem is it really isn't, because that is what's called hearsay. Technically what Robert Costello is saying is hearsay as well, but you see, eyewitness testimony is an interesting thing because depending on who's giving it to you and how it's given to you, it can be better or worse. So Robert Costello going all over the news last week saying, hey, I have a ton of evidence, I want to testify. But no, it's no longer hearsay. He testified in front of Congress. So he's sworn when he said that. So hearsay is any statement made not in court, not under oath. And I think statements made to Congress under oath might be exceptions to the hearsay statement. We got actually a little bit of a good law lesson from Mr. Costello because he tells us in his testimony that the Alvin Bragg prosecutors tried to keep certain emails that he had sent, and even today we're hearing from the courtroom that Judge Merchan would not allow emails between Costello and Cohen, wouldn't allow them to be read to the jurors. These are emails where potentially Cohen is telling Costello, this was all my idea. But yet the judge denied allowing that stuff to come in to evidence. Isn't that weird? Doesn't that seem like you'd want all this evidence to come in? Why are they only blocking evidence that would help Trump and allowing evidence, like many lawyers have said, all of this tawdry sex description that Stormy Daniels was giving shouldn't have been allowed, because Stormy Daniels is not bringing a suit against Trump alleging that he did something sexual to her that she didn't want. She's saying she engaged in consensual sex with him and now doesn't like it or something. I don't know, but that's not even at issue. It's really this payment is what they're saying. The payment, they're saying, was fraudulently recorded to make it appear to be a legal expense when these guys want it to be a campaign finance expense. Meanwhile, we're learning today that Michael Cohen had a pretty fast and loose relationship over there. He was stealing money. I saw a tweet from Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump both saying that that was a revelation. So obviously it seems like Michael Cohen had some ability, some latitude to do things within the Trump organization, didn't necessarily need Trump to sign off on every single thing he did. Now, it's possible Ben Wittes slipped out of this place without me knowing. It's possible that there's a back door to it. We'll wait here a little while longer, but people know that guy doesn't want to answer these questions, because if what I was saying was wrong and just completely out of left field, I would think the person would behave like I did when Julie Lewis said, oh, this guy's lying and he won't debate me about it. I said, what are you talking about? I'll debate you right now. Send me a DM and let's do a debate. And then she started acting crazy and then blocked me. And so I guess we're not doing a debate. But see, Ben Wittes could have stopped me and said, you don't know what you're talking about. It's totally legal to send tax-exempt funds to my house when every other payment is getting sent to a P.O. box. He could have said it's totally legal for us to hire Alexander Vindman and have him do a grand total of nothing and then lie on a 990 and say that he's working 40 hours a week. But he didn't say any of that because he knows that that stuff is not true. And I think he knows that what I'm saying is correct. So he just shuts his mouth. He also knows he can't say I'm stalking him. He just walked out of a public building. I had no idea he was in there. I'm trying to ask him pertinent questions about a relevant, newsworthy event, and he obviously doesn't want to talk about it. We have a school trip or something. I don't think we're going to get another opportunity to speak to Ben Wittes. Oh, but there's Andrew Giuliani, I think. Let's see if I can talk to him. Andrew, Costello's testimony confirms He's a UCO.
How's it going?
Costello
I
said
gotta
to him,
get back in, my friend.
real quick.
Let's talk later. I really gotta. I'm late because I gotta talk to Cash.
Run, but let me give you
I'm
this. Costello asks him, how did the FBI get a search warrant if you only had an NDA? And he never answers if he had a search warrant or not.
Yep.
Because he was working for the FBI. There was no search warrant. It's a total lie. The reason why he wanted to hire Costello is because he's friends with your father. They were trying to get your dad.
Let's catch up later.
I'll see you over there. His father was the target. They knew that Costello knew Rudy Giuliani. See, now the cops don't know what to do with me, because do the cops like Rudy Giuliani? Do they not like Rudy Giuliani? I don't know what the hell the cops' motive is, what they're doing, but I might have just missed Ben Wittes during that moment. But anyway, Costello, his testimony sinks Michael Cohen. So see the hearsay testimony. How you guys doing? Over there with the cops, you mean? So that you guys have been here a few times, right? They have one side of the park for people who want to protest Trump and one side of the park for people who are in support of Trump, which is kind of smart to stop fights. But then, you see, the cops will not let you walk down certain streets. I'm sure you've noticed that, right?
Yeah.
So those people who I was arguing with, they had all kinds of signs, came walking down the closed street. Somehow the cops let them in there. Then they were in the park. I was just standing talking to that one guy.
Yeah.
They come in the park with all their signs, and I said, hey, you guys have to go to the other side. They start surrounding me. I don't know where people got the idea that 5 people surrounding you and that's menacing. You're not allowed to do that. But they think that's First Amendment, to surround someone and intimidate them. So I said, I'm gonna go get the cops if you guys don't leave. And they said, good, go get the cops. See, in my experience, when I'm doing something that maybe I didn't know was illegal and somebody tells me it is and they're gonna call the cops, I stop doing it and I leave. I don't want the cops to come over, but they did.
Yeah.
Those people work for the cops. Take it easy, I'll see you in the park. So see, there are sensible people around here, but you can't. Maybe Wittes is watching at the door and sees when I just spoke to that guy he ran over. The cops are doing some weird stuff over here. They seem to be protecting idiots like Ben Wittes and Norm Eisen. So Andrew Giuliani definitely recognizes me now. That's good. See, if I can get this information to him, and if he agrees with my assessment that they were going after Rudy, it's just so obvious. And I mean, look at what they did subsequently. They just served Rudy over the weekend at his 80th birthday party. So obviously what they want to do is they want to get to Rudy, because when you're 80, you're kind of old. And when you have all these legal problems, it costs a lot of money. And see, these guys, you've heard the saying that when all you have is a hammer, everything needs to be a nail. When the only tool you have is a hammer, everything needs to be a nail. So these guys are just banging on every nail in the same exact way that they always do. Yeah, see, those cops are all there to make sure that they can do something to me when I come back and speak to Ben Wittes, because it was a little too coincidental how 2 lieutenants ran in there as I was talking to Ben Wittes. They definitely know who he is. Look, I'm not just making this up that I say, oh, he's a CIA guy. Ben Wittes is a fellow at the Brookings Institution. I believe he was Brookings Fellow 1, maybe Brookings Fellow 2, in the Durham report. Durham laughed when I said, is Ben Wittes Brookings Fellow 1 in your report? He looked up. I had handed him the Twitter coup, and he was captivated by the color photo on the cover. He looked up from it. He smirked. He looked back down, he looked back at me, and he started laughing, and he said he's not going to talk about his report. That seems like an indication that he certainly knew who Ben Wittes was. And Ben Wittes, remember, sent that email to James Comey that immediately gets forwarded to Andrew McCabe. That email was all about Peter Smith. And he even references Shane Harris, who would call Charles Ortel on the day that I meet Charles, on June 30th, 2017. Shane Harris calls Charles, and he's asking him about all the same crap that Ben Wittes had emailed to James Comey December 28th, 2016, same exact day Adam Sharp publishes his PR Newswire release that he's leaving Twitter. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, though, right? Because Adam Sharp is still defending Twitter 4 years later, in October 2020, when he goes on CNBC to tell them about how foreign influencers are going to Twitter because that's where the influence is. That's actually his interest in Twitter, because you see, they don't want someone like me, who's just a guy with a cell phone and the First Amendment, although my First Amendment is pretty restricted. They don't want somebody like me going into this courtroom and going into this courthouse and speaking to sensible people like Andrew Giuliani and hopefully Jonathan Turley, and telling them facts like Michael Cohen came up with this whole scheme, and there's evidence in the public domain that proves that. They don't want me doing that. They don't want these ideas to rise on the merit of their own credibility. They want to be able to decide what is information and what is disinformation, and then tell you what you can talk about, what you can listen to. This is why it's so important for people to become sponsors on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Have you ever seen a bald idiot stay inside a deli for so long? It's a long lunch. Really unbelievable. Ben Wittes, he's such a little rat. He's such a disgusting, lying little piece of shit. So he runs this Lawfare Institute that evidence that I've seen in their 990s seem to indicate that that thing is a total fraud, stealing tons of money, sending over $300,000 to Vindman for something he should be court-martialed for, essentially paying him to lie and testify against Trump. Now, Vindman is another guy who came over here from the USSR to escape oppression. He's also Jewish, like me, and he's a twin. It's interesting, isn't it? And they made a little movie about him and his brother with Ken Burns. It's quite weird that this attention was put on him at such a young age, but it was. And he's getting 6 figures for what is recorded as 40 hours per week of working at the Lawfare Institute. But when I asked him what evidence exists that he lives there, he said there were press releases. So I don't know that a press release of any kind could prove that he's been working there 40 hours a week, but he seemed to misunderstand the difference between evidence that he's been hired and evidence in support of the lie that he works there 40 hours a week. But the other thing that Ben Wittes does is he's on a Department of Homeland Security intelligence, what is it? Intelligence experts group, something like that. So what is he doing with the nonprofit, the media position as a blogger, and this government position? It just doesn't seem like the type of thing that a person should be able to do. You should pretty much have to pick one because it's a conflict of interest, right? He's got a blog and he's working for the Department of Homeland Security, telling them that Crowdsource the Truth is disinformation. Well, that's arguably unfair business practices.
All I drink is caffeine.
I don't know, something seems to have affected Ben Wittes' ability to exit that, like maybe he went out the back. I can't imagine he's still in there. He might have snuck out while I wasn't looking and run around the corner or something. Pretty pathetic. So now what, though? Am I going to hang out here all day and wait to talk to... I can't do that. He's not going to get out of here until 5 o'clock. Yeah, this is the moron with the mohawk who told me that they let people sleep in the park. I mean, these guys have nothing but wise-ass answers. This guy looks like Russian intelligence right here. might not get to speak to Ben Wittes again. I really wanted to speak to Turley because it was clear to me that even Costello doesn't understand the lawfare component, doesn't understand that Rudy Giuliani was the target. See, his logical mind, he's a prosecutor, he's a lawyer, he's spent a lot of time figuring out who's lying to him about what. And so he, I think, presumed that Michael Cohen made this up to get in the good graces of Trump. I don't think that's correct. I don't think he understands the whole lawfare angle. I do think he's going to know Valerie Caproni because he, Costello, was in the Southern District of New York with Giuliani while... Now, see, remember, when I first started talking to Andrew Giuliani about this, maybe this was a while ago, and maybe this wasn't on video, but when I first started talking to him about it, I mentioned Caproni in the Eastern District of New York and asked him if his father would know her, and he said, well, my father was Southern District, and he didn't know her. And he kind of downplayed, like I had just assumed that the Eastern District of New York and the Southern District of New York would interact a lot, because Eastern District is Brooklyn, Southern District is right over here. There's going to be a lot of stuff in close proximity, even crimes that happen in one and go to the other, and et cetera, et cetera. But he seemed to kind of, I don't know, hopefully I can have like a long interview with Andrew Giuliani at some point, because what I want to understand is what was the relationship like between Eastern District of New York and Southern District of New York. Maybe they hate each other. I could see, Brooklyn and Manhattan, maybe they don't get along. That would make sense. But anyway, I presume that they will know the people in the Eastern District. But we don't know. So anyway, they seem to have targeted Costello because they knew that he knew Giuliani. So think about it. These guys are getting older, right? I think Costello is a little younger than Giuliani. He was junior to him in the Southern District, but anybody who is older than Giuliani, I mean, as you start becoming over 80, the odds of being alive go down. And a lot of these guys, I think, are heavy drinkers, maybe not the healthiest people in the world. How many lawyers who have 40-year-long relationships with Rudy Giuliani are still alive and practicing law that you could, contact them and say, hey, can you come represent me? But something I had wrong the first time I heard him speak that I understand more clearly now is that his law partner, what was the guy's name? Clifton? That's not it. Anyway, Costello's law partner knew Michael Cohen. Those guys knew each other. So let's see, Costello, Robert Costello, law partner. Commercial and criminal litigation. Yeah, Citron, that's the guy's name, Citron. So Michael Cohen knows Citron. Costello is a partner over there at the law firm with Citron. So he contacts them and says, hey, I'm getting jammed up by the FBI, I need a lawyer. I think that he's left the lunch place because all those lieutenants are gone. So I think that I might have just missed dude man. What's his name? Ben Wittes. That's all right, we got him on the way in. Boy, now I need a clever conversation with Norm and we'll have everybody. We got Andrew Weissman, we got George Conway, Ben Wittes. Unbelievable. Such a fat little turd. Yeah, so they basically call Costello, and the idea is we're going to get to Giuliani through Costello, and Cohen knows the law partner. So the angle that Costello wasn't thinking about was that they're trying to get him. because he believed that Cohen was jammed up by the FBI. Now, one of the things that sort of got me thinking about this that was quite interesting is that Bill Hemmer, who actually is pretty smart, I kind of like Bill Hemmer for a news person, he said, I guess he was feeling like this story sounds weird. And he doesn't know all the stuff that I know, so he can't quite fill in the blanks the way that I am. And I'm not saying I'm right. There could be elements of this that I've got wrong. I don't think so, but I could be. And so maybe Bill Hemmer feels like, I don't know, this is a screwy story. How do you know Cohen wasn't lying to you then, if he's lying now? And by the way, everything that Costello says is that Cohen is an inveterate liar and that all he does is lie. And I think that that's pretty well established. So it raises the very good point of, yeah, how does Costello know he wasn't lying? It's not like Costello represented this guy for 15 years and went to his daughter's wedding and knows all kinds of stuff about him. He, as far as I understand it, just met him that night. Anyway, it's a pretty good question. How do you know Michael Cohen wasn't lying to you? And in fact, I think he was. I think Michael Cohen was lying to him. I think Michael Cohen was setting him up. And I hope I can tell Andrew Giuliani about it. I think I would have to go back, run this video, and then come back here at 5 because this is just going to be, I can't do an all-day video standing here vamping and talking. And the court must have resumed already. There's no way Ben Wittes is still inside that damn deli. It just doesn't seem plausible. And we had that mad gaggle of lieutenants over here. It's just such a motley crew of losers who are posing as cops. It just doesn't seem that Ben Wittes was going to walk straight out that door. He found some other way out that deli. That's amazing. What a coward. It's just so funny. There's a lot of people on these street corners looking at me. Oh, there he is. So Ben, this email with James Comey, that was all about Peter Smith. You were trying to set up Charles Ortel to give him a bunch of bullshit fake emails. This whole thing is fake. You invented it. You're gonna go to jail, dude. You understand that? I'm either gonna have to be killed or I'm gonna put you in jail before that day arrives. You understand that, Ben? You're a fucking criminal. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm trying to interview the guy.
He doesn't want to be interviewed.
And what did he say? I'm doing what to him? I'm hassling him? Harassing him?
Yeah, they close it off after coming in.
That guy's a criminal. So there we go. He knows exactly what's up. Fucking Ben Wittes. How you doing? You've got a very interesting look going on. Can I say hello to you? You are an interesting looking fellow. Can I say hello? Sure. You got kind of an Elvis thing going on. What's the pin? What is that pin?
Imperial owner.
What is it?
Imperial owner.
What is that?
Car.
Ah. Well, listen, enjoy the day.
Car years ago.
Not often that you see an Elvis-like cowboy on the streets of New York City. It's just, see, that strikes me as an FBI lookout kind of guy, because he's just so weird. What the hell is he doing there? And see, Ben Wittes, he's not going to answer any of those questions. That guy thinks he's some kind of, I don't know what. That is a public building. It's ridiculous that the court can keep me out of there. So it's really Costello who could turn this thing upside down, and they're trying to keep his evidence out. Makes no sense. Yeah, so the cops were over here before, and when I finally did get them in here, they did not ask these people to leave. Once again, they were attempting to manhandle me. And it's like, first of all, what the hell are you even talking to me for? It's curious that they even knew that I was the one who had, you know, called them over. I spoke to one cop over here, and then 4 other cops came over and joined.
And they come up to me and you're so pretty. It's like I'm like, oh, my business is to see my face, you know? And like they think I'm
But this is how this is supposed to work. It's supposed to be the people who are rooting for Trump here and the people who are against Trump over there. And when I said, hey, these people are here disrupting this pro-Trump area, the police should have just said, hey, can we politely ask all of you 60-year-old people to leave? It wasn't like a bunch of hooligans. I mean, I get it when there's a volatile situation and people are about to beat everybody up. The cops just don't want to run in there guns a-blazing. But you see, this was right after they allowed them march right over here. I don't think I got video of that. I wasn't really streaming. I just was standing here talking to a guy, and I was wearing a suit. I didn't bring all this stuff. I just had my regular phone. Then, when all of those people came over, I walked up to them and turned on the phone, and that's a recording that I will play after this video for people who sponsor the show. People can see that on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. The reason I want to do it that way is because anytime I argue with anybody, George's brother likes to take that and start sending letters to people about it and taking screen captures from it. And we're going to at least force him to have to pay to do that. Or actually, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to root out the people who subscribe to the channel just to take the material and send it to Dave's brother. So this will be a little test of that. And the person or people who have been doing that should think twice, because when I figure out who you are, you're going to get sued. And there's a lot of financial damage that I've incurred by now. So, you know, maybe I won't be able to figure out who you are, but it's funny. I have a pretty good track record of figuring out and finding the people who are trying to mess with me and really creating big legal problems for them in the course of trying to get my rights restored and my money back. So it's probably best if you don't interact with George's brother, because basically everybody who has done that since I became involved, I would think regrets it. I don't think Ben Wittes figured that I would be learning all this illegal stuff that he's done. The reason he's so nervous is because he knows everything I'm saying is correct. And that if Donald Trump becomes president, and if by then Andrew Giuliani has told Rudy all this stuff, and they know that what I'm saying is correct, I think there might be somebody else on trial, and I think it might be Ben Wittes. That's what I think. Yeah, we're gonna make sure Ben Wittes goes to jail. He's such a little weasel. And he's just such a bad guy. So his wife was working for the ambassador. What ambassador was it? It was the ambassador in charge of sanctions or something like that. I mean, these are insane people. I'm not doing this because I dislike them. I'm doing this because these people have broken the law, destroyed the integrity of our judicial system, made all kinds of horrible decisions that are bringing us closer and closer to World War III. And they just can't be allowed to continue doing this. We're running out of everything. So, yeah. There's something very weird going on in that courthouse, and the police are involved. And so let's just recap this. So day one, who did we have in that park? It was like an FBI party. We had Johnny Tobacco, his girlfriend Kara, that guy Ezra Frisch. And remember when I told him I think you work for the FBI? Did that get on camera where he said, who do you work for? I found that very telling. That guy also showed up at the Matt Taibbi event. And I mean, again, Matt Taibbi, who, I don't know, he's always too busy to talk to me, even at that event. And he wanted to hear what this guy had to say, just like the cops, you know, if it seems sensible. You've got two opposing sides and you want to minimize fights. Well, let the anti-Trump people protest on one side and the pro-Trump people protest on another side. That's a sensible thing. If we can't agree, then let's stay apart to avoid a fight. Everybody has the right to share their opinion, but let's just be sensible. You guys stay over here. I don't understand why the police would delay even 5 seconds when they come in and I say these people are protesting Trump on the pro-Trump side. It should just be an automatic the second they show up. The police say, hey, you people have to go to this side. But instead, they come over, oh, what's the problem? And the cop touched me. And I said, don't touch me. And he said, are you serious? Which, by the way, if you do not ever touch a cop if you're communicating with them, because that opens the door to them grabbing your hand, handcuffing you, and saying you're under arrest, and then claiming that you assaulted them because you touched them. I don't advise touching anybody that you don't know, because you never know what somebody's frame of mind is. There's somebody out there who's been abused, and the second you touch them, they're going to either get a violent flashback to abuse, or presume that you might abuse them, or just use it as an excuse to initiate violence. But the NYPD has such poor training and such unintelligent, unprofessional, incapable, feckless, stupid, unqualified officers who frankly make New York City much more dangerous. I'm well past the point of thinking the city would be safer without the NYPD. If every criminal walking around knew that you were likely to have a gun, I think they'd be less likely to mess with people. Right now, we've got people, so this crew of old people, when I started telling them you need to leave the park, they surrounded me with their signs, encircled me, and started chanting, you know, nobody is above the law or whatever. That is not First Amendment. When a group surrounds an individual and starts acting like that, I can tell you from my point of view as the person who is being intimidated by it, it's quite intimidating. You feel like, ooh, suddenly I'm in danger. There's a crowd turning its attention toward me and they seem angry. This is escalating. They could harm me. I don't know exactly what to do. By the way, that's called menacing. That's not the First Amendment. You're not allowed to surround people and poke sticks in their face, as those Palestinian protesters were doing at the Fashion Institute of Technology a week ago. The police say, oh, this is a protest. No, that's a gang menacing me. You need to tell them to go away, not me. That's not the solution. Criminals come to my neighborhood and the cops tell me I should just leave. Why do we need the cops then? I call the cops saying, hey, you cops established this rule. The stupid woman says to me, oh, this is a park. I have a right to be here. But when I say that to the cops, this is a public courthouse. I have a right to be here. They just shrug their shoulders and say, no, you don't. So the cops have established, and I get it, there's going to be a law somewhere that says in special circumstances they have the authority to say, yes, of course, this is a public sidewalk, but there's something unusual happening, and for public safety or your own safety or to help not interfere with police operations or whatever, today, you cannot stand on the sidewalk. You cannot stand in the park. You cannot enter the court building. Okay, so let's accept that there are laws that allow the police to do that. Why, if they've made one of these exceptions, which is essentially if you want to protest Donald Trump, which these people were doing, and by the way, she lied. She said, oh, we're pro-Trump, but they're holding up signs that say Trump lied and nobody's above the law and Trump should go to jail and stuff like this. So obviously they're not pro-Trump. And the police should have just come and said, you guys need to go to that other side. And they didn't even say that. In fact, when I play the video later, people will see. I don't know how that got resolved because I left. And frankly, one of the guys there in the park during this whole altercation breaks out an undercover police badge. So what is going on with the police having undercover protesters who seem to be frequently antagonizing me, trying to poke me in the eye with a stick? And by the way, what happens when that happens? We've already seen that the police don't want to do anything when people who are known to them choke me. What happens when somebody known to them pokes me in the eye with a stick? I have a feeling I deal with the pain and suffering, and they just go off and continue doing nothing, which is all they do. So I spoke to Charles about this earlier, and he said the solution is to leave. And I disagree. I mean, that would be a short-term solution. People might say, oh, you're crazy, Jason, you're not going to be able to change this. And I realize that's a likely possibility. But then again, maybe if I get this information to Andrew Giuliani and he gets it to Rudy and the right people figure out what's going on in time, maybe Ben Wittes goes to jail. Maybe Norm Eisen goes to jail. Maybe Andrew Weissman goes to jail. These assholes know that I know what they did. And they're nervous because this is the home stretch. You know, they don't know how it's going to end. They've got the deck stacked in their favor, but I'm there, you know, in the pit, letting the pit boss know somebody's cheating in the game. And if I can get that message to the pit boss before these guys scoop the pot, they're in trouble. They know that. So tension is on right now. Where should we go here? And they don't want me getting in there. The cops know who I am. And this is the funny thing. I haven't done anything wrong. Even if people say, oh, you're rude to those cops, doesn't matter. The First Amendment is not contingent on being polite. I could be as rude to those cops as I want. If the law says it's a public building, I should be allowed in. Why do they have the discretion to decide what members of the public or what members of the press go inside? That's an extremely dangerous and un-American condition for the police to have that level of control. But that's what they have. They have the First Amendment, they have the Second Amendment. Their officers act like thugs, clearly dumb. Another great thing, the smartest among them, the detective, the guy wearing the suit. And also remember, it was a police, an NYPD detective that I saw the other day standing outside a Maybach. What the hell are the police? A Maybach is like $300,000. Why do they need that? Why not a regular 500 SL? Or why not a Lincoln? Why do the police need a Maybach? What the hell are these detectives up to? When's the last time they solved a crime? I bet you there's a lot of them that they could be working on. And in fact, I could tell them the solution and they would just have to do it. But they don't want to. They want to drive around in a Maybach. But that idiot said to me, don't tell us how to do our job. And I said, I will tell you how to do your job because you're not doing it. And by the way, you know, this is not like somebody comes into my 3D office and starts telling me, oh, well, maybe you should do this or that. They don't know anything about it and they have nothing to do with it. I pay for the police and they are supposed to be public servants. I'm a member of the public, so I do have a say in their inability to do their job because these guys sit around getting paid. And then another idiotic statement that some police officer said to me one time when I told him that I can tell you what to do because I pay your salary in part with my taxes. He said, I pay taxes too. And I said, well, so what? I don't get any of that money. And I don't work in any public capacity that your taxes pay. So what's your point, idiot? And he had no point and he had nothing to say. So he stood there like an idiot, like that guy. Don't you work for Amazon?
Who?
Is this your stuff?
Hell no.
Oh, yeah, so you don't have a job. That makes sense. Fucking moron. So, I mean, you know, that guy's first thought is he's gonna give somebody the finger. We got nothing but idiots rolling around this city. And my point is, the cops obviously wanted those people there. And the cop who came over and put his hand on me, what kind of training is that? Because what he wanted to do is he wanted me to grab his hand and then suddenly the cops could arrest me. And then the situation diffuses, I get arrested, they've got what they want. Didn't happen though. The cops are so stupid, it's really sad. We've just seen so many examples of it. Yeah, I mean, they obviously still have a plan going. I mean, you know, people are thinking that, yeah, I don't know. Ben Wittes is in there. Where is Weissman? Is Weissman in there? He's another coward. These guys are such weasels. Such weak, disgusting, stupid little men making horrible decisions that are destroying people's lives. So this guy Weisselberg, you look smart enough to know you should not be riding this bicycle on the sidewalk. Get it off the sidewalk.
Sorry.
Don't ride it on the sidewalk. Get it off the sidewalk, you fat bitch! See, no matter how polite you are to somebody, they just continue riding it on the sidewalk. Oh no, you called her a bitch. You know what? That woman crashes into somebody, they're gonna have thousands of dollars of medical bills, pain for the rest of their life, rehabilitation for months, and people are upset that I'm raising my voice. It's unbelievable. So let's talk about that, because, you know, I don't like losing my temper, but this is a big deal. And what I'm starting to realize is, see, the cops have totally failed by allowing stuff like that. People remember a week ago or something, Charles and I were walking and somebody rode by like this on a bicycle, almost crashed into me. And it just provoked an immediate reaction. You know, when somebody startles you, I started yelling at her, and just so happens the cops were right there. And again, they're more concerned about yelling than somebody breaking the law. It's not illegal to yell at somebody if they almost crash into you with a bicycle. It is illegal to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk, but the cops spent like 3 minutes explaining to me how he has no time to say, ma'am, he's right, get the bicycle off the sidewalk. Why won't they just say that? Because that will shut down the stupid woman and make her realize I better get it off the sidewalk because the police just confirmed that. Every time when the police show up in the park and don't immediately say, yeah, get out of here with all your anti-Trump signs, you guys have to go to the other side, they're emboldening that behavior. And by the way, I watched the video back after experiencing it, which is often extremely valuable. And they love to do this. They get some little weird woman to come and argue with me and antagonize me. Because then, if I say anything to her, oh, she's a woman, blah, blah, blah. So look, here's the thing. If we want to have this society where women are equal, I'm fine with that. But then if you're going to step to me, I'm going to yell at you and say all kinds of things that you might not like, and you can't say, oh, how would you speak to a woman like that? She's the one who got in my face and started making a problem, so that's what you get. But this is what they love to do. And then they'll have some much bigger man there so that if any kind of altercation does start, which I would never physically assault a woman, no matter how stupid she was, and people saw that when that fat little troll was antagonizing me outside Twitter, also trying to start a fight. This seems to be what the police want. The police like fighting. They like beating people up. I think they even like it when people punch them because it's a free license for them to like basically kill you. So that seems to be what they're always trying to do with me, is create some kind of a situation that gives them an opportunity to beat me up. And I'm not going to give them that. I just stand there and record their badges and reiterate to them how incredibly stupid they are. And they always get tongue-tied because, see, most of them are a whole lot bigger than me, definitely able to beat me up, and carrying guns. So I would never fight with a police officer, also because it's illegal. But I have not yet met one that's even remotely intelligent. It's a sad case. It really is. I bet Charles would hate that. So they insert this, it would seem the police insert or allow to be inserted this anti-Trump protest in the middle of the Trump Park. And people saw, those guys who just stopped me outside the deli, they witnessed it going on and they knew, like, this is fine, this keeps it calm. You anti-Trump people stay over there, we come over here. They're just immediately provoking a fight. And she said to me, I have the right to be here. Well, the police said, no, you don't. And she told me, go call the police. Isn't that weird? It's the same behavior that we saw from the people I suspect to be cooperating with the police outside of Twitter. See, most normal people, when they're in your face antagonizing you and you say, I'm gonna call the police, they leave. They stop and they leave because most people don't want to deal with the police, particularly when they're doing something wrong. And by the way, like I said, I've seen that group over there. They're gonna know that that park is separated into Trump and anti-Trump. And so her telling me go call the police, and then the police coming right over and talking to me. Why did those 4 police, who were not the 4 that I called, I spoke to one guy, 4 other police came over, came right up to me, and they're like, oh, what's the problem? I'm like, look, Dick, there's 30 people holding anti-Trump signs on the Trump sign, kick them out. And then he puts his hand on me, and I'm like, don't touch me. He's like, are you serious? I didn't say this to him, but you know, if you put your hand on a police officer, the next thing that's happening is you're getting arrested. So what kind of training is the stupidest thing a cop could do? Unless he's trying to provoke me to grab him or do something that he can then escalate and handcuff me and drag me out of there, which I think is what he was trying to do. So I've come to hate the NYPD. I used to be a big supporter, but they're dishonest, stupid, dangerous, incompetent, constantly lying. I hate them. We'd be safer without them. I never felt that way before. They're evil. I'm sorry if this upsets people to hear me say this, but you know, people have seen me interact with the cops. I'm not going and protesting the cops. I'm not one of these people that was burning down their cars and trying to defund them. But then, when they're lying about me in court and letting people strangle me and lying to protect those people and constantly being rude and unprofessional and protecting Ben Wittes, who, why is he allowed to go in there? Where was his white ticket? They didn't ask him to see a white ticket. Isn't that weird? It's almost like there's people that they want to get in and people that they don't. It's interesting. Yeah, I think every single NYPD officer should be fired, and we should establish a new police force, or at least every single one should be evaluated, and anybody who fails the evaluation should be fired. It's terrible. I mean, I guess what Charles is getting at is the rod is just too thick, too deep to fix. So then, I mean, is that it? We just give up, abandon the place? Maybe, I'm not convinced it's going to be that much better someplace else. Something going on. Fred, swarthy guy. It's sad that people are in New York going to McDonald's for lunch. There's lots of great restaurants here in the West Village. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it back there at 5. How could we get this information to Rudy Giuliani? Who do I know? I mean, I guess Andrew Giuliani is my best contact. Rudy Giuliani gave me his phone number one time, but he's never answered. Weird. And you know, Lee in the past has told me this story that he was told by John Kiriakou, who is CIA. And Kiriakou, as told to me by Lee, said that he met with Giuliani about getting a pardon, and that at some point during the meeting, Giuliani went to the bathroom, and according to Kiriakou, one of his associates who was in the meeting said, give him $1 million and you'll get the pardon. Which, I don't know. See, that's hearsay, because that is not said under oath, not said in court, and not even told to me by the person who said it. So that's not evidence. That's a hearsay statement that you could say that, you know, Michael Cohen is the tooth fairy. It doesn't make it so. And also there's, you know, Kiriakou, he was in jail. He was CIA. What if they said, hey, John Kiriakou, how about we let you out of jail and you're going to become a social media influencer, but you got to talk about what we want you to talk about. And we want you to put it out there that Rudy Giuliani is selling pardons, because that's a big part of how we intend to jam him up. So go put this out there into the sphere. Because I don't know, that's a pretty big risk to take with somebody that you don't know, to just openly put it out there that you're going to break the law. Maybe he did. I just don't have any evidence. And remember, Lee also believed Stormy Daniels. He got angry and was adamant that, you know, Trump, why did he pay her if he didn't have sex with her? I was very disappointed in that conclusion, because there's a lot of reasons why. We've articulated it extensively. Every old guy I look at, him like, is that Costello? It's not. But I mean, it's just common knowledge that sleazy people shake down movie stars and Michael Jackson, and, you know, Elon Musk, we spoke about, had to pay $250,000 to some flight attendant. So it's almost like Donald Trump would need an attorney who, or any billionaire might have an attorney who just handles frivolous lawsuits from lunatics that need to be settled with. And I imagine it happens quite a lot. And even if it never happens, I already have an example. People got this who are watching the show. The reason why I feel this way is because I've got a bright line example in my own life of somebody who is willing to make up lies and put them into a fake lawsuit just to put out lies about me. So the notion that a hooker would do that, it seems pretty straightforward. I totally disagree that there's any evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. And the other thing I said was, just from knowing Donald Trump, I don't think he would have sex with a porn star. He would consider her a cheap commodity that he's not interested in. He wants the Playmate of the Year. He wants the supermodel. He wants, you know, the top quality. And I just don't think that he would think that Stormy Daniels is that. And I also think if you're entering into a settlement with a billionaire, $130,000, how does the settlement get to that? You'd think her lawyer would be asking for 10 million, 30 million. Little Rod is suing, and I'm not comparing the two, because Little Rod Rodney Jones has a legitimate lawsuit in my view, but it's P. Diddy. He's saying 30 million, 25 million, something like that. It's a huge number. Trump, I mean, if you're talking about punitive damages, those are calculated on the basis of the person's net worth. How do you arrive at 130,000 with Trump. I was trying to get to this with Charles yesterday, but obviously it's a question that can't be answered without knowing more about Michael Cohen's personal financial situation, and that was clear even just from looking at these HELOC calculators without knowing the value of his home and how much the mortgage is for. It's really impossible to determine how much of a mortgage you would get, but just, you know, putting in some basic numbers, these HELOC things wanted to give out between 50 and 80% of the value of the home. So what home does Michael Cohen own that's only worth, you know, $200,000-$300,000? It doesn't make sense. And also, Cohen explains to Costello that he didn't want to explain to his own wife that he was doing this. I think that is what leads a lot of people to think that he was having sex with Stormy Daniels. But I mean, again, there's no evidence of that, and other than just going right to the most, you know, salacious possibility, there's a lot of other reasons why he might have done that. So in other words, if I think a lot of times when people are married, and also Charles said that the wife is from a wealthy family, so I don't know what that's about. I can't seem to find a woman who even has a job, but the point is, the wife would be very involved in all kinds of, you know, marital co-ownership of stuff that he can't just go get loans against. And if he's doing something, you know, super questionable and sketchy with the FBI, he's not going to want to tell his wife about it. And in fact, he's probably signed secrecy agreements with the FBI where he specifically cannot tell his wife about it. So $130,000 does sound like the kind of amount that somebody like Michael Cohen could get a loan for without telling his wife. Michael Cohen today testified that he was paid millions and millions of dollars by AT&T, consulting with AT&T when they wanted to buy Time Warner. What the hell does Michael Cohen know about any of that? Holy crap, that girl was beautiful. Oh my God, she turned around to look at me. People say, go back. I'm not gonna go. It's just not gonna happen. Maybe 20 years ago, I would have turned around. Point is, 130 grand for lawyers and millionaires. I mean, somebody like me, regular people, we hear that number, it's like, ooh, a lot of money. But not really. You know, Michael Cohen has some big apartment on Park Avenue. That thing's gonna be $2-3 million if it's cheap. I mean, what is he getting this $130,000 loan from? And just the whole way he did it is so screwy. And he has now testified. And Costello has corroborated. Trump knew nothing about this. Cohen was putting it all together. He put together this stupid lie that he called Trump and that Trump Trump runs this organization like a mafia family where he just says, you know, it's done. And Trump says, okay. And that's the confirmation that he knows. You see, the reason why I'm saying this is because, remember, RICO was new in 1970 or whatever. When did it come out? Maybe 1970. Rudy Giuliani was the first prosecutor to prosecute somebody under RICO. Okay? So there was a lot of RICO stuff going on in New York, and in fact, I think it was created to combat organized crime, which was mostly centered in New York. And so, RICO is all about getting at these organizations where that type of communication happens, where you don't have a specific phone call saying, oh, go to this location on this date and kill this person. It's just like vague references to, hey, did you take care of that thing with that other guy we know in Newark? Oh, yeah. So in a RICO case against an organized crime family, communications like that could serve to indict someone to show that they're involved in these, you know, predicate acts that you need to make a racketeer, influence, corrupt organization charge. And this is what these people know, right? It's like I'm always making analogies about filmmaking and building my 3D camera because that's what I know. That's what I spent all my time doing. This guy, Robert Costello, he analyzes his client's behavior through the lens of a normal attorney trying to figure out what's going on with a criminal charge, because that's his frame of reference. That's what he knows. I look at a case like this, I see Felix Sater involved, Michael Cohen, Andrew Weissman. I know what these people are all about. I've been looking at them as they're trying to destroy me for the past 7 years, and I have an understanding of how these people operate. So my first thought is, what's the lawfare angle here? And I guess that's a Model 3. The lawfare angle here is they were trying to get to Giuliani. And see, they sometimes, it's like when you're eating cereal and then there's like a little rock in there. It's like, oh, crunches really hard on your teeth. That's what happened when they bit down on me. That's what happened when they bit down on Charles. And that's what happened when they bit down on Robert Costello. Didn't go crunch. Something jammed up the chewing there. And I don't think Costello knows that. I don't think he realizes that he was a target of lawfare. And I think Ben Wittes knows that I know. And so he's not going to say anything. Unbelievable. I sued Ben Wittes in Goodman v. Boozy. And that was, I think, the second lawsuit I ever brought in my entire life. George's brother has been bringing dozens of lawsuits since 1992. He just today got kicked out of the Second Circuit for failure to pay the fee on an appeal he had filed in one of the cases, because he's just wasting time. He's clogging the docket. He's making clerks have to address his stupid nonsense. He doesn't have a legitimate purpose for any of these lawsuits, but yet I can't get a judge, Valerie Caproni, James L. Cott. Funny, they all seem to have worked with James Comey. Isn't that weird? It's such a coincidence. How many judges are there who have worked with James Comey? Not that many, but they all seem to keep showing up in my cases. And they don't seem to think that an email sent from Benjamin Wittes to James Comey all about everything I'm talking about in my case has anything to do with the case, and my case is dismissed. Isn't that amazing? It's kind of like Judge Merchan not allowing this email between Michael Cohen and Robert Costello. Get the bicycle off the sidewalk, pendejo! Ah, see, that he understands. So this is what I wanted to say about the bicycle maniacs. They've started talking back. So a lot of people get upset when I say anything to the bicycles on the street, and I get it. It's not that productive. But I realize today we've learned something about the evolution of bicycle criminals over the past year, let's say. So when they just got here, and I would yell at them, the reactions were interesting to observe. Many, particularly those who couldn't speak English, were clearly frightened and got the bicycles off the sidewalk, or at least said nothing. Now, broken Spanish, broken Chinese, they've learned how to say, "Fuck you, asshole." And they think it's their right to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk. So the police are too busy doing nothing down in the park to do anything about the bicycles on the sidewalk. They're too busy lying in court to do anything about people strangling me when I go to tell Elon Musk that the FBI controls Twitter. And every judge in the Southern District of New York seems to think it's no big deal that Ben Wittes was sending emails to James Comey about everything that my case is about, and the case is dismissed. Seems fair. I'm sure I'm, a terrible litigant, and that this is all because of my legal incompetence, and that this is why the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences needed to pay Finnegan, Henderson, Faribault, and whoever else is in there over $1 million to still not be able to win. They have to cheat. These people are losers, shameful losers. Fuck you, Ben Wittes. I hope you're watching. You're a loser, and you're going to lose. Such upsetting stuff. Yeah, so I don't know if going back down there is a good, maybe I will. I would like to speak to Turley. So, yeah, I mean, that's just it. They're going to play some kind of trick, right? So people are talking about the deferred judgment where they might say that the prosecution has failed to make the case, so they're not going to even give it to the jury. Sorry about that, had to sneeze. Didn't want to blow everybody out with a loud sneeze. But yeah, I don't know, this is where we get into the tricky lawfare aspects. I mean, again, I'm not claiming to be an expert at this or a lawyer. Is that a Bentley? Those guys are expert lawyers. They have all kinds of tricks up their sleeves. They know what can happen and what cannot. I don't know. Yeah, but George's brother had one of his appeals knocked out today. He's got all kinds of cases going on. Right, so what I was getting at is, this guy, for 32 years, has been bringing frivolous nonsense, including for the last 7 years, something like 20 cases against me. I've been asking everybody under the sun to find this guy in contempt of court, enjoin him from filing against me again, enjoin him from harassing my mother while she's recovering from spinal surgery, enjoin him from harassing my father. They won't do that. But after only one lawsuit against Ben Wittes and another person who that slimeball Michael Flynn operative, Ivan Raiklin, tried to violate this court order, but Ben Wittes and that person, after one lawsuit against them, there's a court order where I'm not allowed to ever sue them again. Obviously, that's unconstitutional, but this is how they do it. So if I did go to sue them, I mean, right away, that puts in a whole other year's worth of legal action to say, hey, wait a minute, I should be able to sue them. And then by the time they say yes, no, maybe, whatever it is you're going to sue that person for, you know, it's years later. So they're doing all this stuff to buy time. And that's another problem that, you know, the Jonathan Turleys, the Robert Costellos, all of the serious lawyers are still looking at this thing as if it's a serious lawsuit. And when you don't consider the lawfare aspects of it, you're never going to be able to figure out a solution to a case like this. I'm not saying that you know, obviously you need lawyers and legal expertise, and I'm not saying ignore the pleadings, but in other words, it's like a movie with no sound. You can't understand what's going on. Not fully, unless you hear the sound, or listening to the sound and not seeing the picture. You gotta have a lawfare perspective on a lawfare case, or you're gonna lose. I mean, the problem that I had was, I had no traditional legal background, so, you know, there's a lot of easy stuff they got me with at first that now they wouldn't be able to, and they shouldn't have been able to. But again, just like I'm alleging they did this big, complicated thing to try to get control over a lawyer they wanted representing Cohen, I'm saying that's the same thing, essentially, that they did with Jonathan Snyder. They always want to have it set up where you think this guy is your lawyer, but we control him, or there's some aspect of this that's, you know, I mean, that's a kind of an iteration where the lawyer is being fooled. That's different than what they did to me, but still, it's similar. It's all lawfare. And that was the guy right there, Benjamin Wittes, the Lawfare Institute. Such a little weasel. He's stealing your money. That guy has a fancy house in Washington, D.C., gets all his money tax exempt. That means your taxes subsidize his criminal activities, and there he is, telling the police, oh, don't let this guy in. They didn't even hear what he said. Now, what's going on here? Some kind of transaction. What the hell is that? I've never seen that before. Unclear what that was. But this is becoming sketch over here too. So, yeah, there's a lot of people maybe who have gone down there and have been just live streaming the court proceedings. I thought for a second about trying to do something like that, but I just figured there'd be a million other people doing it. And I think this has been a more interesting perspective. What's going on around the courtroom? The courtroom is being socially engineered. The park, outside the court, everything around it. So right after this, I'll play this sponsor exclusive video, which is my interaction with these maniacs and then the cops. And people will be able to watch that for themselves. People who are really interested in this can watch that for themselves. The people who say, oh, don't put information behind a paywall. Well, yeah, it's just going to get deleted if I don't do that. And anybody who is unwilling to support the show for $3 a month shouldn't be upset, because they obviously don't value the information that much. I super appreciate the people who value this information and have sponsored the show on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm just in the last moments here where I generally don't like to shut it off, because when I do, there's usually some dramatic last minute thing that happens. All these places that opened during the pandemic have closed, and that was like a rapid medical thing, so that's weird. I would have thought people are going to those things now, or I don't know. This was a liquor store out of business. A lot of things going out of business. Not good. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I still need to decide if I'm going to try to go down there and speak to Andrew Giuliani. I think I should. It's important, and we're running out of time. Yeah, so I'll run this video, cool off for a little while, and then I guess I'll head back down there once. Yeah, I mean, it's already almost kind of time, but I'll set this up to go, and then I guess I'll head back. I don't know, will they call Robert Costello as a witness? It seems like they should. Would that get around the problem of not being able to introduce his emails as evidence? See, that's the kind of thing I don't know. You need to ask a lawyer. I think it would, but you know, some lawyer's gonna know a reason why no. Okay, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great afternoon.